Hello, everyone. Welcome to Scale Your Freelancing podcast. This is your host, Satya, and today I am in conversation with Dayana Mayfield, my friend and fellow copywriter. And I'm super excited to have her because she has had quite an interesting career. And obviously, I've followed her for a few years now, and we've been connected for a few years. So, super happy to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Dayana. I'm so happy to have you.
Hey, Satya. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you today and share some really good stuff with your folks.
Yes, let's do it. Do you want to tell the humans a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Hey, humans. I am a SaaS copywriter and content marketer. So I work with some of the top SaaS companies around the world and some small startups as well, helping them with website copy, content marketing, and also backlink building so that they have a higher chance of ranking for search queries, because in the SaaS world, search traffic is huge.
Awesome. That's great. And how long have you been doing this?
I have been doing this for 5 years, so I feel very much like a seasoned veteran at this point. I know that, there's people who've been in their careers for like 20, 30 years. I can't even imagine how much I'll know at that point, because I already feel like at 5 years, there's just so much that I've learned about, marketing within, large teams, and then also how to run, a successful 6-figure freelancing business. I feel like I'm ready for a new challenge because I've kind of got this one down.
Yeah, I totally feel you, because I feel like we are in very similar positions with our businesses as well. It's like you reach a point where you're like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I'm really good at it. Like, what's next? So yeah, definitely a good, exciting place to be.
Yes.
Awesome. So what were you doing before you started freelancing?
So right before I was freelancing, I was actually a stay-at-home mom with my first daughter. And I graduated with a degree in anthropology from UC Santa Cruz in 2009. And then I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. So neither of my parents went to college and have like a traditional career. My dad sells motorcycles, and my mom has been like a property manager for like apartment buildings or a house cleaner at different times. So I didn't really have like that knowledge of like, what is even a career? How do you kind of do like white collar information work? I didn't really have that example. And then at the same time, I didn't have like confidence. I didn't have clarity. There was a recession, the global recession at that time. So you put all those factors together, and I basically decided to just be like a caregiver and like hula hoop at festivals.
Wow, that's so interesting. I think your background is so interesting, because I think we often I think a lot of people often take for granted like the things that their parents do for them, right? It's like, yeah, of course my parents gave me long, boring talks about college when I was 13.
Yeah.
Like you really take that stuff for granted. But yeah, like I guess as you grew up, you realize that like not everybody got those same talks.
That's right. I was like, I was kind of told like, go to college, go to college, go to college. But then I didn't have any knowledge of like, what do you do after that? Or like, the idea that like, okay, you're a great writer, you can make money from that. Because like I have vocally loved writing since I was like 6 years old. Like I did like poetry competitions in high school, and like was always working on a novel. And, my whole family always knew that I loved writing, but we didn't really have anybody that understood what that could turn into. Like, everybody was like, oh, be a teacher. So, and I feel like a lot of creative kids, they get kind of pushed in like the opposite direction, because people don't think about, marketing or even the entertainment industry, how many roles there are that need different creative skills so you can do what you love while also, having like a great career. So there was a lot of that lacking for me. And the way that I found it was basically I was 27. 5 years ago, I was 27. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had a daughter. She was 18 months old. And I thought, my husband has this great engineering job, but I don't want to show my daughter that the way to have a steady income is to marry a great guy. Like, I was lucky that I found a truly amazing husband, but it's like, what if my daughter accidentally finds an asshole the first time? Like, what are we going to do about that? You know? So I wanted to show her that, like, you know, you can be independent, and also that you can make money doing what you love. Like, I wanted to do that for myself so I could show that to her. So I was like, all right, I got to finally figure out how to make money as a writer. Like, I was like, I'm ready. I'm going to figure it out. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just trusted that there was a way. So the first things I started doing was fact checking for a local magazine that releases like those free magazines, like about the local events and openings of new businesses. And their model is basically just add revenue from local businesses, and then it's free, right? So that was actually super fun. I started fact checking for them. And then I started doing copy editing, because I was like, I kind of started learning what copywriting was, but I was still too scared. I still had no confidence. So I thought, oh, I'll edit. But then I was like, I suck at editing, and it's really hard. Like, just because you think you know where a comma goes doesn't mean you can prepare something for publication.
For sure. But I love that story. Like, I honestly just love the fact that you wanted to do this for your daughter, because I totally believe in like the same thing, which is we don't just make our lives decisions for ourselves, right? We make it for the people around us. We make it for our children for sure, but like our daughters and even other people's daughters, like people who just know you, people who look up to you. There's just so few role models in this world that are really worth emulating. And I'm just so glad that you're being one of those role models for your daughter and really like doing what you love and making money doing it. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much. And like, something I'm really passionate about is just also getting the word out there that like creative children are needed in so many different ways. And if you have a creative child who's really passionate about whatever their art is, like, don't try to squash that. Just do research to figure out, like, you know, what types of like industries or businesses or whatever actually utilize this skill, you know, like put time and energy into that. So that's something I'm really passionate about.
I love it. I love that so much because, you know, it's true. Like, I think also I grew up in India, right? So my entire childhood, like the only kind of respectable jobs out there were like doctor, lawyer, and engineer, right? It's like those were the three things that like everybody was supposed to become a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. Like there was no kind of creativity around it. And it's like, if you get any other degree, sure, you can go get an MBA and then you're going to end up in a bank anyway, or you're going to end up working for a bank, or you're going to end up working for a technology company. Like that was the norm, right? Like that was the standard thing. And very early, actually, I used to love books and writing and reading like from when I was a child too. Like I was always that kid, like when Harry Potter came out in India, like my parents would always be like, your nose is always in that book because you're always sitting there like they're like, oh my God, what is with Harry Potter? Like my parents were always
yep,
they were
totally
so confused. They were like, your nose is always in a book. You're never like, you're not doing anything else. And of course, I used to play sports and stuff like that. But like, I was hooked. I was obsessed, right? So it's true. Like, there's so much like that kind of interest. Like they start very early in life, but unfortunately for a lot of people, they just get squashed along the way, right? Like there's no space for it, or people just constantly tell them, no, you're supposed to be an actor. Sorry, you're supposed to be a doctor. You're supposed to be a lawyer. You're supposed to be a technology person. You're supposed to be blah, blah, blah. But there's not enough of like room around like, hey, what would you like to be? And also, unfortunately, there are not enough examples and role models around you of people who have done very well for themselves, just doing something completely random, right? Like selling a specific kind of ink pens from Japan or whatever. Like you don't see those role models of like people who are literally making millions of dollars doing something completely random. So yeah, I think
totally
that's so needed. Like I wish there was kind of a platform or a group or something where people could just explore interesting career paths.
That would be genius. Yeah, like at high schools or something. Yeah, I hope that like all of the online businesses that have like really like boomed in the last 10 years can fill that gap a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely like, I think, I don't know, an education thing, I guess.
Yeah, no, but for sure, you're right. Like, only in the last 10 years, maybe 15, the online even the online payments market has become what it is, right? Like before 15 years, like even the online payment industry was like basically non-existent. Like your PayPals, the Stripes, like all these companies, all these technology companies are, I think they're less than 15, 20 years old. So it's interesting that, like, as that technology platform has grown, that's kind of made all this online business possible. But yeah, like I was just thinking today, I'm like, I can literally collect a payment from anywhere in the world and receive that money in my bank account instantly for a small fee of 1%. Like, what? It's like,
That's
it
true.
blows your mind.
It's totally revolutionary. And so that's what I'm so excited. Like my daughter, who's part of this story, she's now 7. And now I have another daughter that's 3. And so my 7-year-old, she is like a performer. Like she loves singing. She loves acting. She was in like a school play. And so I love like telling her like, hey, like whatever you want to, do, you can do. Like she also thinks maybe she wants to be a doctor. So I'm like, hey, you want to be a doctor? Cool, go to college, be a doctor. But if you want to be like a singing teacher, we can set up your website and your singing course.
Yeah, why not?
So it's like, imagine having that when you're like a kid, like, oh, I could actually, take money for whatever I'm good at, as long as I'm providing, something for the person on the other end,
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly though, I feel like personally for me, college was really useless. Like I got a technology degree. I have a 4-year degree in software engineering. And so, yeah, like I can write a few lines of code, or like if you put a few lines of code in front of me, I can tell you what's wrong with it and why it's not working. But I hated it. Like I literally hated it for like every fiber of my being for like 4 years straight. And so, yeah, like, and now like what I do has absolutely nothing to do with technology whatsoever. But I still love systems. Like I love systems thinking and stuff like that. But like, it's not like the core of my business or anything. But yeah, for sure. Like if I had an opportunity, like if somebody had told me when I was 10 years old that like, hey, whatever you're interested in, you can make money from that online. And like, you don't even need to go to college. Like I would have been the happiest kid in the whole damn world.
Totally. So true.
And I would have probably had like $100,000 more in the bank, or at least my parents would have. Like what?
Yep. I know. It's so true.
But it's okay. It's all good.
It's okay. We're the pioneer. We're like pioneers of the online world. So it's
exactly.
all good.
No, seriously though, but with my niece, I keep telling my sister, like, don't you worry. If she doesn't want to go to college or whatever, it's totally fine. As soon as she turns 18 and she can legally run a business and collect money, I'm going to teach her how to run an online business. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. That's so fun that you have a niece, because that's like before I had kids, like I was like with my niece, I was like, I'm gonna help you out. And it's like so fun. It doesn't matter if it's your kids or somebody else's kids, just having like kids to help out is really fun.
It's so fun. Absolutely. So I would love to hear a little bit more about like, what was your journey like getting to 6 figures? Like how long did it take for you? What was your journey like?
So it took me 3 years to get to 6 figures. In that time, I did have a second baby, and I did save up for a 4-month maternity leave. So if I had not had a baby that year, I would have gotten to 6 figures in year 2. So it kind of like I was, because my month to month was, but then I just stopped, making money for 4 months. Yeah. Right. So it was kind of like my month to month was, but the year was not. So for me, the journey, if I had to like break it down into like a few things and like what really got me there, I would say, nailing a profitable niche that I loved. Like I genuinely do love working with software companies. I try to avoid the really painful, gross, high-tech, confusing stuff. And I work with a lot of marketing software. So they're really easy to use. They're like, great UX, like, like one of my clients is Drift. Another is Story Chief, which is like a SaaS for content marketers. So I like working with marketing tech, because I'm a marketer. So it's like I learn more as I work with them, right? So the niche thing was really big one. Another one was focusing on cold email. A lot of people want to poo-poo cold email and say like it doesn't work. But the funny thing is the most successful enterprises in the world all do cold email. They just do it really well. They'll have, 20, 30 employees doing nothing but cold email. So it's really silly for like, I think solopreneurs to be like, I hate it, I don't want to do it. It's like, well, you're not doing it right. And then the other thing that helped me a lot was LinkedIn. So getting really good on LinkedIn, getting active there. And then of course, raising my prices and making sure that I was, charging kind of what more of the, the top writers in my industry are charging instead of, undercharging like the assistant rate. I think a lot of freelancers are giving the assistant fee.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, for sure. You know what? I just love what you said about like using cold email and being more proactive around marketing, because I've met so many copywriters and freelancers who, like, when I ask them, like, we do our like consult calls or whatever, and I ask them like, so how are you marketing yourself? And they're like, I'm not. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not? Like, it's like, do you just sit on your ass and wait for a client to come to you? Like, do you think that's how it works?
Good luck.
Yeah, like, I don't say that out loud to them, but like a part of me is like, what do you mean you don't? Like, what does that even mean? Like, I was like, there's got to be somebody that's driving clients to you, right? Either you got to be driving it to yourself, or your referral partners have to be driving them into you, or your clients are going to be driving people like through referrals to you. Like, somebody's got to be driving clients. Like, what do you mean? It's like, I'm just not, like,
It's
I'm
crazy.
not. Like, but it's
crazy.
true. Like, I would say easily 70% easily of like freelancers and consultants probably don't market themselves at all. And they just think like, oh, like, yeah, I'm sure it'll work out. Like, client will find me somehow. Or like they just post something on Facebook and they're like, I hope somebody comes through. But yeah, it's just like, it's so funny. But also that's why I just love that you mentioned that you have been proactive about reaching out and getting clients. And you've been the person who reaches out and sees like who needs you, because that is so needed.
Yeah, it's really, really important, I think, especially as a foundation. And I was really lucky to like have copywriters tell me that, like a friend who was in marketing at like an agency in Brooklyn, New York, and hooked me up with somebody that her agency contracted out to. And so I was able to like ask her some questions. And so she told me like, that copywriting, I don't know why I said copywriting, cold emailing is such a good foundation because it is proactive. It is in your control, And as I went along, the other thing I learned about it is that it's not the enemy of inbound, because people think, okay, it's outbound versus inbound. And it's like, go to war. But actually your outbound can make your inbound more successful. So let's say that you want to be in the wellness niche, right? You want to work with some like amazing wellness coaches or wellness e-commerce products. So you take what portfolio you do have and you link to it in your cold email to wellness companies. Then you get more logos to put on your website. You get more testimonials. You get more portfolio samples from that specific niche. Those are on your website. Then as you're posting on Instagram, as you're posting on LinkedIn, that foundation is there.
Oh, yeah.
And so you get more people filling out your lead form.
Yeah.
So I think that's the funny thing about cold email is people don't realize that just because you do it really like solidly for a year doesn't mean you're going to do it forever. You're doing it to very strategically choose the business that you want, because otherwise you can get kind of stuck in whatever comes. Like, for example, there was a time when I thought, oh, let me start posting on Instagram and see like what happens. Post about being a copywriter. Like, the only lead I got was from a company that wanted me to rewrite their bong e-commerce website. So it was like a bong website. And I was like, I just don't want to deal with these people. Like, I really do like working with like software companies. So I'm sure for other copywriters or other freelancers, Instagram can help a lot. But for me, like, it's really, LinkedIn is where my ideal clients are, and, cold email. So, it's just about kind of figuring out not like only what's coming, but also what you're going for. What do you want to go for? Build up that brand and that expertise. And then you can set up some of those more passive inbound strategies, because you've got that clarity on what you're wanting.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said, because it's, yes, 100%. Just to add on to what you're saying, right? You have the foundation of outbound, which kind of makes sure your bills are paid, you're not in a desperate place, and like think you're able to function in the world. And then as you put your effort into inbound, that inbound traffic now has some actual social proof that you're amazing, and then you can continue to work with them. And also, it actually just gives you a lot of confidence. Like when you when you have business, when you have clients on your calendar, when you're fully booked out, when you're doing all the work, you gain confidence around your own skills. You're like, I'm pretty fucking good, right? You feel like I'm really good at this. People want me, people like me, people are willing to pay thousands of dollars to work with me. So that way you have more of a posture and more of a, like, you're just showing up as an expert and a badass to new clients. You're not coming from that place of like, oh my God, please work with me, please give me any money you have. Like the whole desperation thing is now like off the table, and you're able to pick and choose the best clients who are available for you out there, right? So I think it's not just about the fact that, oh yeah, like it's a great foundation for social proof, but just like your own self-confidence, just for you to feel like, I got this, I can do this, and I'm really good at this. It really helps to just have some kind of foundation that helps you get there. So yeah, 100%, like actively marketing yourself. Like passive income is amazing, but like there's nothing wrong with active income. Like I keep telling people that all the time.
Exactly. And knowing how to kind of use cold email to like maybe get some of the clients that could be more regular. So
Yeah.
like, for example, like I do blog, like long form blog content and website copy. So in a lot of industries, blog content is seen as really like low value, but for software companies, those Google ads, when you type something like customer service software, those things are like $30 a click. So
Right.
These software companies, they really want to rank in Google for their top key phrases.
Right.
So they pay for really good writing that, you know, is interviewing experts, using statistics, like actually actionable. So for me, what I love is having, you know, at least like 8K in monthly revenue from the ongoing blog content clients.
Right.
So then I do 2 or 3 like large website projects, and then that can get me to like 16K a month. Not really large, maybe small or medium. If I do 2 or 3 small or medium website projects, that can get me to, you know, 16K per month. So another strategic way with cold email to like also improve your confidence and you know, just your understanding that like you can do this and you can build up like a real business, is to try to use cold email to get something that's more regular. So I think a lot of freelancers can figure out what's an ongoing service versus what's a project service.
Yeah.
So I would suggest using cold email primarily for your ongoing service. So you can just kind of stack those. You're like, okay, I've got 4 people that are ongoing. Now I can use my inbound to try to get the projects a little bit more.
I love that. That's a really, really smart strategy. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think that would be very, very useful for people who are going to be listening to the episode. Love it. So I'm curious, you know, when you started your business or in the last few years, did you have people who didn't believe in you, or who were discouraging, or who were trying to take you off your path?
Luckily, I didn't have anybody who was discouraging. I just had people who were confused.
Right. Yeah, there are a lot of those.
Like, wait, what are you doing? But the funny thing, like, it wasn't until I hit 6 figures and like posted something about it that then like my cousins and friends, like when I would see them, they're like, wait, what are you doing? Like, wait, what are you actually doing though? You know, because like, I think up until that point, it was like, oh, Dayana's trying to do some writing thing. She's been trying to do writing things for a while. We don't know what she's talking about. Like I self-published a book, like before all of this. They're like, oh, well, who knows what she's doing now? But then it was like, when I posted something about getting 6 figures, it was like, oh, wait. Tell me about this, you know? So yeah, luckily I didn't have anybody that was being discouraging, which is great, because I'm sure that happens a lot for people.
Yeah, no, I hear that so much from like people in my community, which is why I like to talk about this on these podcast episodes, because I want people to know that like there's nothing wrong if people don't believe you, right? Like if there are some people who don't believe you or were confused, like I had like a very similar experience to you as well. Even now, like I have friends asking me like, so what do you do again? Like they just can't wrap their head around like what I do. And I was like, I have two businesses. I coach and I consult. Like I do both. And they're like, but what do you coach people on though? I mean, like to make more money. And they're like, but how do you actually do that? And I was like, there's a whole strategy. I can't like explain like what I've learned over the last 5 years to you in like 5 minutes. I was like, there's a strategy, but it's true. Like look, most people don't know how this online business world works at all. So it is confusing, but it's not like an insult or anything. They literally are struggling to wrap their head around it.
Yeah. I would just say that new freelancers should make sure that they're never taking advice from somebody that's not in this whole world. Just smile and nod, And even if it's a podcast, maybe if you can't afford coaching yet, listen to this podcast, listen to another podcast about freelancing, and just surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about. And so then when other people give you advice, you just smile and nod, and don't fight. Don't let it hurt your feelings. Just smile and nod.
That's such good advice. But by the way, do you follow Denise Duffield Thomas?
I love her. And I'm partway through Chillpreneur, which is her second book.
Yeah.
And I think it's an amazing read for people who are actually earlier on in their business and trying to get that confidence. I really love her.
Yeah. And she talks about this concept called bean dipping for exactly situations like this. Bean dipping. So I think she talks about this in her first book, but she also has this in her program. Is basically what it really means is to distract the conversation. So as soon as somebody starts telling negative stuff to you, it's like bean dip, like asking them if they like about something completely unrelated. Like she was like, like let's say you're at a party and somebody walks up to you and says, you should get a real job or like whatever, and starts talking at you. Yeah. And you can just be like, yeah, I'll totally consider that. Would you like some bean dip? Like you just now called bean dipping.
That's good. That's great. I love it.
Start talking about something completely different and like just distract. And sometimes she's like, you don't even have to acknowledge what they just said. Like if sometimes somebody walks up to you and says, so how much money did you make in 2020, Dayana? And you're like, what an inappropriate question. Would you like some bean dip? Like she's like, like acknowledge the fact that they asked you a question and answer it. You can just be like, wow, that is such an inappropriate question. Would you like some bean dip? Like literally just start talking about something else. Because she's like, you don't owe anybody a response or a rebuttal or like anything for that matter.
It's true. Yeah, it's a good place to come to when you don't feel like you have to explain yourself. I'm still working on that because I am more of like a talkative kind of like open book sort of personality. So like at parties and stuff, like I'm working on like just not feeling like I have to explain things. I think it's a good place to come to with your business, is kind of knowing who you want to talk to about it and who you just don't. Even if they're not rude or discouraging, you just don't want to put the energy into trying to explain it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's about recognizing that people are coming with their own baggages that have absolutely nothing to do with you, right? Like even people who love you, like even people, like even your family for that matter, like even my parents for that matter, like the truth is that their childhood was very, very, very different to mine. And their like even their young adulthood was very different to mine. So they genuinely cannot understand when I'm talking about like, what would it be like to have $100,000 month? Like when I tell them like, yeah, I'm working on $100,000 month. Or like a few years ago, I was like, I just had a $50,000 month. And they're just like, cool, just save everything, okay? Don't just spend it all. Like that's the only thing they know how to say.
Yeah, that's funny. I know. I feel
they're like, just make sure you save and invest everything, okay? Just save and invest everything. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just so funny because genuinely, I think it's a very new concept in like places like India, especially where you can literally earn as much money as you want. And there's nobody out there who's putting a cap on it, right? Like that's a very, very new concept. Yeah, there were a few people who were running businesses that kind of maybe heard about it, but for everybody else, you had a job. And like, there's not, and even if you didn't have a job, even if you have a small business, there was not that feeling of abundance. Like you can literally earn any amount of money from anyone in the world. Like I have a client who's based in the Caribbean islands, right? Like I have clients literally all over the world. Like they're in the most random places, but they want to work with me and I love working with them. But this is such a new concept. This was not even a real possibility like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago. So it's, like we've got to give people time to catch up. But in that time, like, let's just not take any of this personally because they're trying their best too.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, is like if your culture is not one that kind of has, maybe they don't have a culture of online business, but if they don't even have a culture of small business, that probably does give even bigger hurdles, because in the US, like there's a long standing, time period of like a big focus on small business owners, that then at least people can kind of like, oh, you're self-employed. Like, what are you, like, I'm self-employed. Oh, okay. Like that's a thing. So that's a good point. I can see how, if that's not even a thing, that you would be up against even more issues with talking to people,
No, but seriously though, like in my family, I have one cousin who's about, I don't know, he's a little bit older than me. He's a lot older than me, maybe 15 years older than me or something like that. And he has a business. And he was the first person, the only person in like my extended family. And like, I have a big ass family. I have like, literally have like 40 first cousins. Like I have a huge family. And out of this huge family, there's only one person who kind of sort of started a business a few years ago, like 10 years ago or something. And then the second person was me, right? So like everybody in my circles had jobs. That's it. Like you had a job in a big corporate, preferably you didn't have anything, like nothing else. It was literally you had a job in a big corporate. And like in India, the small shops are like, or small businesses were not a big thing like when I was growing up. So that's just, it was quite a process, like kind of trying to explain to people like, I can make $50,000 in a month. I can make $100,000 in a month. And like, that's just what it is. When like, to be honest, like there are people in India who earn that kind of money, like maybe in like 2 years, right? Like there are people earning $20,000 a year. And there are people who are earning like $25,000 a year. So talking about earning that on a monthly basis is like, it blows a lot of people's minds.
Crazy. Yeah. I bet. Totally.
All right. So we're almost at the end. So I want to wrap up because I feel like we had a very interesting conversation that went all over the place. What would you say is like the best piece of advice you've gotten in the last 5 years?
I would say the best piece of advice is, it's not necessarily a strategy or a tactic. It's what gets you to the point in trusting in those, which is that you have to have the confidence before you can figure things out. So somebody told me this way before, Marie Forleo had that book, like It's All Figure Outable, or is that the title? I think it's something like that. Everything is figure outable.
Everything is figure
outable. So somebody told me that before. It's like, it was like a few years before that, you have to first decide that you have the confidence, and then anything is just a Google search away, so just tell yourself, you can do this. I know everybody's like, oh, mantras are so overdone or silly or whatever, but they really do help.
They work.
What phase you're at, like in your business, like you need new mantras. So once one mantra is kind of like stuck in your soul, write a new one on a Post-it note and, make a new vision board or whatever, and just lay out what you want to go for. Know like you can do it, have full confidence in yourself, and then start putting all the pieces together. Because if you can do that, you will have whatever kind of successful business you want. Because the people who kind of hem and haw and just kind of wait for something to like happen to them, it's because they're trying to like figure everything out before they truly have the confidence to take action, where you just have to have the confidence first. Confidence does not come from success. It comes before success.
I love it. I love that so much. And that's so true. And I want to stack on that because that's such a good piece of advice. I want to stack on that and say, don't wait to reward yourself or treat yourself with kindness or give yourself space to rest, or literally insert whatever you're waiting for here before your success. Like, don't wait for success to happen before you give yourself that. Like, right, don't wait for success to happen before you feel like a badass, or don't wait for success to happen before you show up as a professional who has a contract signing software and a payment management software, like all these things. Like, you have to have those pieces in place, like before you become successful, because those are the ingredients of success. But also, like, take time to have fun, right? Like, take time to have fun, rest and play and do things that you enjoy, and just give yourself the rewards of success first, knowing that like success is coming. It's like, because I think a big mistake that a lot of freelancers make is that they think I have to wait for my success to happen before I can take a vacation, or I have to wait for my success to happen before I can be proud of myself, or I can wait for success to happen before I can market myself more or talk about my business publicly. Like, none of that stuff is true. It's just those conditions just exist in your head.
Yeah, I love that idea. And it could be something simple, like allowing yourself to get a massage or a new pair of earrings, like just to be like, wow, I really put a lot into this. Like, let me treat myself. And and just like loving on yourself. Like, there's really like we could talk about this like forever, because it's really true. Like, do not poo-poo this work. It is so true. Like, and it's funny because it's easy to ignore, because when you ask me what got me to this point, I didn't say mindset work, but the truth is it's probably mindset work. That's actually what got me to this point, because I did work with a mindset coach before hitting that 6 figures. And that program was huge for me, because it helped me get past a lot of money blocks, because I don't come from a professional family. And I don't come from a family that, you know, dealt with money well. It was like my mom was overspending. My dad was like underspending and didn't believe that in taking risks. And my dad didn't even believe in like going to college, because he just didn't understand it. So just healing the relationship with money and with my self-confidence was really big. And that's actually what allowed me to put those strategies into place. I'm more of a strategy person. Like, I could never be a mindset coach. So I tend to like think with all what are the strategies that matter. But that mindset work is so important. So definitely like work with somebody that's going to help you with, you know, your confidence, your like money, you know, positive money beliefs.
So true. So true. Like, it's been the same for me as well. Like, I think my business literally did like a hockey stick thing once I started working on my mindset consistently, and once I made that like a non-negotiable part of my business. And that was like something I'm doing every single day, even now, because you literally just can't stop. You have to do it every single day. It's like such a game changer, and literally there is no limits. Like, you already know what to do when you get all the emotional junk out of the way, when you get all that mindset junk out of the way. You know what you need to do, and you already have the resources to make $10,000, $1 million, like whatever amount of money that you want to make. Like, you have all the resources. But what really stops us is that mental emotional game. It's not so much a lack of strategy, because like you said, everything is just Google away.
I love it.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dayana. This was so good, and I loved talking to you. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, this was great. I'm looking forward to sharing this as well, because I just know it's just going to help a lot of people. So thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, sure. And where can people find you if people want to connect with you online?
Yeah, so you can find me at dayanamayfield.com. It's Dayana. And also, you know, all of the socials, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, you can just search Dayana Mayfield and we can connect there.
Sounds good. We'll also put your link in the show notes below so people will be able to find you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.